The evening sky blazed like fire, spilling down onto the deserted country road, making the asphalt shimmer with rising heat. Maya Johnson, a 10-year-old black girl, walked quietly, taking slow steps down the village lane. Her worn-out backpack swayed behind her, heavy with books and a small toolkit, a special gift from Uncle Leon, who always told her, "If you want to be strong, a girl needs to know machines just like a boy." Slung over her shoulder was a faded MIT t-shirt, one of the rare things her mother had once picked up at a flea market. To Maya, it wasn't just a shirt. It was a dream, a symbol of a different future. Suddenly she stopped. A blazing red sports car, a Shelby GT500 Mustang, was parked conspicuously on the roadside, its hood flung open like it was crying out in the heat. Beside it, a white man with salt and pepper hair, dressed in an expensive suit, was pacing back and forth, yelling into his phone. "I don't care how much it costs. I'm stuck in the middle of who knows where. I've got a meeting with the governor in 3 hours. If I'm late, who's going to be responsible for that?" He glanced angrily at his gold watch. Maya hesitated. Aunt Rennie's warnings echoed in her mind. Don't talk to strangers, especially those fancy-looking guys who end up lost in our village. But her gut told her to stop. She could sense the frustration in the man's body language, something unusual in a place where people were used to hardship but always stood strong. "Excuse me, sir," Maya said, stepping closer, her eyes earnest. "Do you need help with your car?" The man turned around. His eyes widened in surprise before narrowing with suspicion at the sight of a small girl in faded shorts and flip-flops, hanging on by a thread. "You think you know something about a car like this?" he asked, with a hint of a mocking smile. "This thing's got more horsepower than your average pickup." Maya didn't flinch. She simply shrugged. "My uncle's a mechanic. I've been learning to check engines since kindergarten. He says cars are like people. If you listen, they'll tell you what they need." Before he could respond, Maya had already dropped her backpack, unzipped it, pulled out a few tools and leaned over the engine. Her frame was small, but her hands moved with surprising confidence. "When did it start acting up?" "About 40 minutes ago. Engine got hot, then just shut off. Damn thing. There was even this sweet smell." Maya looked up and smiled. "Coolant, when it leaks, it smells kind of like syrup. You might have a cracked hose or a busted radiator." She pointed to a small puddle under the car, something the man hadn't even noticed. "See, coolant's dripping. If you keep trying to drive, the engine could seize." He stared at her, for the first time really paying attention. As Maya spoke, Andrew's gaze began to shift. It was no longer distant or dismissive, but filled with a curious, lingering intrigue. There was something about this little girl that felt strangely familiar. The way she furrowed her brow in concentration, the sharp eyes, scanning every engine part like a miniature expert. "What's your name?" he asked, almost instinctively. "Maya. Maya Johnson." The girl extended a small, grease-stained hand toward him. Andrew gave it a gentle shake, hesitating slightly. "I'm Andrew Whitaker. Nice to meet you, young mechanic." Maya beamed. "I think I can patch this up for now." She pulled out a small metal box from her backpack. "Uncle Leon makes me carry an emergency toolkit everywhere. He says, sometimes in life, you'll be the only one who can help someone else." Andrew couldn't take his eyes off her. Maya worked with stunning precision. She identified the leak in the radiator hose, then wrapped it swiftly with specialized tape like someone who had done it 100 times. "This should hold until you get back to town," Maya explained, "but you'll need to top off the water to make up for what's already leaked." As she reached up to brush her hair back, sunlight filtered through the trees and caught her small hand, and that's when Andrew froze. On her finger was a ring with a green stone that shimmered like rare emerald. The band was antique gold, slightly tarnished, held in place by a rough string tied to keep it from slipping off her small finger. But what stunned Andrew wasn't the stone. It was the tiny crescent moon etched inside it, a detail he could never forget. It was the ring he had given a little girl 12 years ago, also named Maya, at the Little Angels orphanage, just days before it was abruptly shut down without explanation. "Pet ring," his voice trembled, completely different from the confident tone he had earlier. "It's very special." Maya looked down at her hand, speaking softly. "It was my mom's. Well, my foster mom, Diana. She passed away last year." Her eyes dimmed slightly. "She told me this ring was a symbol of a very important promise." Andrew took a deep breath. "Did your mom, Diana, ever say where she got it?" Maya shook her head. "She never said exactly, just that one day I'd understand what it really meant." Andrew's heart pounded. He tried to stay composed, then offered, "Let me give you a ride. Think of it as a thank you for saving this car from dying out here." Maya hesitated, then nodded. During the 15-minute drive through winding country roads, Andrew tried to remain calm while his mind raced with every one of Maya's answers. "What school do you go to? Who have you been living with since Diana passed?" "I live with Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon," Maya replied. "They're Diana's brother and sister." "How long have you been here?" Andrew asked, keeping his voice steady. "Since I was 3. Before that—" Maya paused. "I don't remember much. Mum said I was adopted from an orphanage called Little Angels." Andrew nearly swerved off the road. "Little Angels? Are you sure?" "Yes. Do you know that place?" He didn't answer right away. His breath felt heavy in his chest. "I knew it. A long time ago." The car pulled up in front of a small, tidy house, modest but filled with warmth. Maya thanked him and stepped out. Before she could close the door, Andrew quickly handed her a business card. "Maya, if you ever need anything at all, call me." She accepted it, her eyes full of quiet curiosity, then nodded and ran inside. The ring sparkled in the sunlight like a sign of fate beginning to unfold. Andrew sat motionless, his hand shaking as he pulled out his phone and dialed a familiar number. "It's me. Call the private investigator. I need you to look into a girl named Maya Johnson and an orphanage called Little Angels." Maya had no way of knowing that when she waved goodbye to the man in the expensive car that day, she had unknowingly opened the door to secrets buried for over a decade. A complex chain of events had begun to unravel, connecting a billion-dollar empire, a mysterious orphanage that had been shut down, and a young black girl with an extraordinary gift: the ability to fix what seemed beyond repair. Have you ever believed that sometimes a small ring could become the key to unlocking an entire conspiracy, one woven with power, prejudice, and a truth capable of changing many lives forever? For 3 nights straight, Andrew Whittaker couldn't sleep. He sat in his study, eyes fixed on enlarged photos of the emerald ring, the same one he had given to little Maya at the Little Angels orphanage, as a promise that he would one day come back for her, a promise he had never kept. In his office at Whittaker Enterprises, Andrew tore through old documents. 12 years ago, his father, Howard Whittaker, had bought the orphanage land for a pittance, citing financial irregularities. Just months later, Andrew had been appointed CEO. "Mr. Whittaker, Attorney Evans is here with the Horizon Project files," his assistant announced. The Horizon Project. A luxury development, being built on the very land where Little Angels once stood. Andrew quickly stashed the folder away just before Evans entered. "Here are the orphanage acquisition records," Evans said, placing a thick stack of papers on the desk. "But I don't see why you're suddenly interested in something long settled." "My father was meticulous about archiving," Andre replied coolly, "but I'm the one running the company now." As he flipped through the documents, Andrew spotted irregular banking transactions, and more disturbingly, a list of children who had been relocated after the orphanage closed. Maya Johnson's name was circled in red, with a note beside it, "Special case, contact HW." The phone rang. It was Ramirez, his private investigator. "I found information on Diana Johnson. She died last year in a car accident. Brake system showed signs of tampering. Highly suspicious." "What about the adoption records?" "Completely gone. On official documents, Maya Johnson never existed at Little Angels." Andrew gripped the phone tightly. "Find everything you can on Maya's current family. I want to know everything." Meanwhile, in the small workshop behind Aunt Rennie and Uncle Leon's house, Maya was carefully fixing a vintage 1950S radio. To her, this place was paradise. No judgment, no noise, just the smell of grease and the familiar sounds of metal and tools. "Do you get that old radio working yet?" Leon walked in, smiling. Maya held it up, her eyes gleaming. "All done. Just had to reconnect a few wires." Leon patted his niece on the head, her braided hair soft like a strand of thyme. "You really have a gift, Maya. I've never seen anyone understand machines the way you do." "Uncle, do you think Mom, Diana, would be proud of me?" Maya asked softly. Leon paused for a moment, then nodded. "Diana would be so proud. She loved you deeply. If she were still here, she'd be bragging about you every single day." Maya gently turned the ring on her finger. "I met a really rich man the other day. His car broke down on the road, and I helped fix it. He recognized this ring." Leon suddenly froze, his face changing color. "What was the man's name?" "Andrew Whitaker. He even gave me his business card." The air in the workshop seemed to turn cold. Maya held out the card for her aunt and uncle to see. "He stared at my ring. It was strange." Leon's face went pale. He quickly glanced at Renee, who had just stepped into the doorway. "Maya, sweetheart, do you remember our promise?" And Renee's voice was tight with tension. "That once you were old enough, we'd tell you the truth about your mom, Diana?" Maya nodded slowly. "Well, that time has come." That night the little house was silent, broken only by the ticking of the clock and Renee's husky voice echoing through the kitchen. Dana, Maya's adoptive mother, had once worked as a nurse at the Little Angels orphanage. On the day it was abruptly shut down, she fled with Maya, changed their names, cut old ties, and lived for years in constant fear of being found. They stayed hidden, carrying a secret, a reason why Maya could never be allowed to return to the past. "Before she died, your mother left this," Renee said, handing Maya a yellowed envelope, its edges cracked with age. "She said it should only be given when someone named Whitaker showed up." Maya's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Slanted handwriting emerged like a message from beyond. "My dearest child, if you're reading this, it means they've found you. Now, you need to know the truth." In a luxury apartment in Boston, Andrew picked up the phone for the second time that night. Ramirez was calling with an update. Sir, there's a journalist investigating little angels. Marcus Hayes, he knows a lot. Knows what? Him, I suspect your father had an interest in children with special abilities, talents that could be exploited. The next morning, a black SUV crept up to the gate of Maya's school. Two men in dark suits stared intently at the crowd of students leaving class. That's the girl with the emerald ring, right? Yes. Mr. Whitaker Sr. wants to see her immediately. What they didn't know was that Leon was parked across the street. He pulled out his phone and dialed an emergency number, the one Diana had left in case the worst ever happened. Marcus Hayes, Leon said quickly. It's about little angels and a girl with a very special ring. I've found the proof you've been looking for. At the headquarters of Whitaker Enterprises, Andrew stood before his father, Howard Whitaker, who had flown in unexpectedly from Florida. Where did you fly back? Andrew asked. Because you're digging into the little angel situation again, Howard growled. I thought that chapter was long closed. I found Maya Johnson, the girl with the emerald ring you gave away 12 years ago. Howard's face paled, and he let out a cold chuckle. She's just an orphan. What matters is the Horizon Project. Billions of dollars tied up in that land. Don't waste your time on a girl with no records. But this girl, she can fix anything. She just looks at a machine and knows what's wrong. She has a gift like I've never seen. Howard narrowed his eyes, his smile sharp as a blade. Now you see why I bought that orphanage, don't you? Some of those children were valuable. With talent like that, think of the military applications, the patents, the power. No, don't tell me you're still dreaming about everything being used for purely humanitarian purposes. While the two men debated the definition of human worth, in a small room miles away, Maya sat quietly, reading the rest of Diana's letter, her wide eyes growing larger with every line. Maya, you have a special gift. And this ring is the key. But remember, there will be people who come for you, not out of love, but for the power you hold. That emerald ring wasn't just jewelry, it was a key, one that led to a trove of documents capable of bringing down an empire. Piece by piece, the puzzle was coming together. On one side stood a powerful corporation, willing to protect its secrets at any cost. On the other, a 10-year-old girl with a rare gift and a ring more valuable than gold or gemstones. And in between them, Andrew Whitaker, a man facing the biggest decision of his life, remain silent or step into the light. On the 50th floor of Whitaker Enterprises, the boardroom buzzed with tense whispers. Executives fidgeted, sensing a storm brewing. Howard Whitaker, the company's founder, slammed his fist on the glass table, his voice booming. Where is my son? He was supposed to be here an hour ago. As if summoned by sheer will, the double doors swung open. Andrew walked in unshaken. Beside him stood a sharply dressed woman with piercing eyes that silenced the room instantly. Sorry for being late, Father, Andrew said calmly, prompting a deep frown from Howard. Everyone, this is Federal Prosecutor Claire Bennett. She has a few questions about Project Prometheus. The room fell dead silent. Howard's face drained of color. The codename Prometheus, a top-secret program created to collect, test, and exploit children with special abilities, was never supposed to be uttered in public, let alone in front of law enforcement. Have you lost your mind? He hissed. Andrew didn't respond. Instead, he walked to the large screen on the wall, plugged in his laptop. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up with files, documents, images, detailed reports. Something I should have done a long time ago, Andrew said in a low voice. The truth about little angels and 5 other facilities shut down over the past 15 years. A stream of data filled the screen, records of 48 children labeled as special, monitored, evaluated, and exploited by the Whitaker Corporation. "This is classified corporate material," Howard roared. "This is theft, corporate espionage." "No, this is evidence of far worse crimes," Andrew replied. "Illegal experimentation on minors, falsified adoption records, bribing officials, silencing witnesses." The video clip began to play. Security footage from 12 years ago, a young nurse, Diana Johnson, fleeing into the night with a child in her arms. Moments later, Howard could be seen ordering security, "Find her! That child has military potential. She cannot be allowed to disappear." 3 employees from Little Angels died in accidents shortly after, Andrew continued, including Diana's brother, the first one to start asking questions. Howard opened his mouth to argue, but the boardroom doors swung open again. In walked Maya Johnson, her hand clenched tightly around the ring, her eyes no longer those of a child. She was accompanied by Uncle Leon and a man holding a video camera, Marcus Hayes, a veteran journalist from the Boston Globe. "Maya," Andrew whispered, his eyes following the small figure stepping into the eye of the storm. "You didn't have to come." "I had to," Maya replied firmly, her voice calm yet commanding, far beyond her 10 years. "Mom always told me there would come a time when I'd have to face those who made us run." Howard Whitaker turned to face her, his expression shifting from surprise to a cold, blade-like stare. "Oh, you're Project 17, the extraordinary child we once tracked," he sneered. "Didn't expect you to be this small." Maya didn't blink. "And you're the man who killed my mom. Her brakes didn't fail by accident, did they?" Howard smirked. "You're free to think whatever you like, but proving it, that's impossible. And you forget who holds power here. One call, and this all disappears." That's when Maya opened her backpack. Her small hands trembled slightly but stayed steady as she took out the emerald ring and gently twisted the stone, revealing a hidden compartment inside. "You underestimated my mom," she said, eyes burning with resolve. "This is a data storage device. It contains copies of all records from Little Angels, including audio of meetings between you and military doctors, where you discussed weaponizing children's cognitive abilities for strategic use." Howard Whitaker, the man who had always commanded every room, was for the first time silent. "And right now," Marcus Hayes spoke up, raising his hand toward the camera, "we're live. The entire nation is watching, over 10,000 people on social media alone." Andrew stepped closer to his father, his voice low but heavy with finality. "It's over, Dad. The prosecutor offered a deal, full cooperation in exchange for immunity." He looked directly at the man who had once seemed invincible. "As for you, we'll let the jury decide." The doors burst open one final time. Federal agents entered. Howard's wrists were cuffed, and the empire he had spent a lifetime building collapsed, live on air. Maya watched him, not with hatred, but with the calm resolve of someone who knew how to fix things. "My mom used to say that machines can be fixed, but broken people have to fix themselves. I hope you get that chance in prison." In the days that followed, Whitaker Enterprises' stock plummeted. A wave of investigations uncovered decades of unethical practices, illegal experimentation, and a web of corruption stretching across generations. Andrew watched the news from his now empty office. Part of him relieved, the other part aching. He had lost his family, his career, and a legacy, but in return he had reclaimed something far more valuable, a long-forgotten conscience and sense of honor. At the courthouse, after the first hearing, Maya approached Andrew on the white stone steps. What happens next, Uncle? She asked. The ring on her hand no longer symbolized secrets, but truth, now revealed to the world. Andrew looked up at the city skyline, where towering buildings had been raised with blood-stained money. Among them stood the headquarters that once bore his father's name. Soon, well, Andrew said softly, we start rebuilding, not just buildings, lives. An empire built on exploitation had crumbled, but from the ashes something new and extraordinary was taking shape. Something no one had expected, the rebirth of hope in talent, especially from places long overlooked. 5 years had passed since Maya Johnson brought the truth about the Whitaker Corporation into the light. On a sunny spring morning, Maya, now 15, walked down the wide halls of the Johnson Center for Young Inventors. The facility, featuring labs, machine shops, and modern classrooms, had been built on the former grounds of Little Angels, the place where so much pain began and where an extraordinary journey had taken root. The sensors on the east wing are still unstable, Maya told the team of engineers trailing behind her. She moved with ease and quiet confidence. Her keen eyes scanned a tangle of wiring, the same way she once spotted a leak in a Mustang years ago. At the far end of the center, Andrew Whitaker was speaking with a group of investors. His suit was gone, replaced with jeans and a simple button-down. The former heir to a billion-dollar dynasty had donated his entire personal fortune to establish the Prometheus Initiative, not a program for exploiting talent, but a real launchpad for kids from forgotten communities. We've identified 23 gifted children just this quarter, Andrew shared. Each receives a full scholarship and a personal mentor. No contracts, no exploitation, no secrets. Andrew's transformation stunned many, especially former Whitaker Enterprises executives. The man, once at the edge of a shadowy empire, was now dedicating his life to healing its legacy through integrity and hope. Maya's about to file her third patent, Leon, now the center's chief engineer said proudly. Harvard, MIT, and Stanford are all trying to recruit her. On the center's main wall was a special exhibit, chronicling the full story. Old photos from the orphanage, a replica of the Boston Globe article, Whitaker Empire Collapses After Teen Whistleblower, and milestones that changed history. Meanwhile, in a medium-security prison, Howard Whitaker, once a man who held billions, sat silent in his cell. The white walls were as blank as his soul. Refuses to join any rehab program, a guard said, shaking his head. Still believes he'll be free someday and rebuild everything. The arrogance that once defined Howard was now just a distorted shadow, an old man clinging to a fantasy of power that no longer existed. That night, the Johnson Center hosted its first graduation ceremony, 12 students, all from underprivileged backgrounds, completed a 2-year program, each with a full ride to college or a dream job lined up. Maya, still too young to graduate herself, was already being called a mentor by her older peers. She stepped onto the stage, lightly spinning the emerald ring on her finger, no longer a vault of secrets, but a symbol of truth and courage. When I was 10, I once fixed a stranger's car by the roadside. Maya began, her voice echoing through the silent auditorium. I never imagined that from that one moment, I'd begin a journey not just to fix machines, but to help repair a part of this world. Now the emerald ring was no longer a relic of dark secrets. It had become a symbol of transformation, a past uncovered so that a new, brighter future could be written. It all began with a small act, a young girl's kindness to a stranger stranded on the roadside. that exposed an intricate web of exploitation. More importantly, it opened the door to a new era where forgotten talents were finally given the chance to shine. From the back row of the auditorium, Andrew watched Maya through tear-glazed eyes. The girl who had once shattered his old world was now the one giving him a purpose that no billion-dollar fortune could ever buy. My foster mom, Deanna, once told me that machines can be repaired, but when a system is broken, you have to redesign it from the ground up, Maya continued, her voice clear and steady with confidence. And that's what we're doing here, not just fixing mistakes, but building something entirely new. The next morning, Maya received a strange letter. The sender, Victoria Whitaker, Howard's daughter, who had renounced the Whitaker name after the scandal and was now a federal prosecutor. We've uncovered 5 more orphanages with models similar to little angels, the letter read. Thanks to your testimony and evidence, we were able to rescue 37 more children in time. Some of them have gifts like yours. When you're ready, they would love to meet you. As Maya read the letter aloud to Andrew, Uncle Leon, and Aunt Renee, the kitchen fell silent, not with sorrow, but with a sense of completeness after a long, turbulent journey. What began as a chance encounter on the side of the road had sparked a quiet revolution, not only changing the lives of those involved, but toppling an entire system built on manipulation and oppression. You know what the biggest irony is? Andrew chuckled gently. My father, Howard, once said he wanted to build an immortal legacy, and he did, just not the way he imagined. Maya stood by the window, watching the children play freely in the center's garden, no longer pawns in someone else's game, as she had once nearly become. True power, Maya said, was never in buildings or bank accounts. It's in the ability to change someone else's life. That evening, the sun dipped behind the red-tiled roof of the Johnson Center. A new plaque was unveiled at the front gate, engraved with the words, "Every talent deserves to be nurtured. Every child deserves to be free." It wasn't just a slogan, it was a promise for the future, built from the ruins of the past, and a testament to the resolve never to repeat it.